Oh, I got it. I already prepped it.
Okay.
Cool. But thanks. We are. I think we're live.
We'll know soon enough.
Yeah. Somebody will tell us.
So just so you know,
Mhm.
Zardoz was really doing good work for you today. He was doing work for me on your behalf today.
How so?
When I posted on Twitter that today wasn't Sunday, he was not so gently reminding me that I had a streak with you.
Well, not just one.
Well, no, I know. But the thing is like I didn't not know that.
Sure.
But today I woke up to like knocking, and it wasn't knocking. Like sometimes, as one is on the first floor of an apartment building, two noises that are not foreign, that are foreign to your lifestyle. Right. And I wasn't sure if it was my mom. I was like, oh my God, my mom comes on Sundays. Oh, that's right. It's like 9 o'clock. She's here. She wasn't. And it took a little bit of mental adjustment to get right with God on that one.
Yeah. It's tough these days, like remembering what day is what. That's partly why I themed all of my streams to the day, because it definitely helps me remember what day it is.
Yep, I get it. It does give structure, right? Mm-hmm. Like the structure is, if anything, welcome.
Yeah.
The order to the chaos. For sure.
Yes. Well, so I hijacked the opening, but what we're really here to do is welcome Fab. Hello.
Hi.
Well, why are you change here?
To build Warhammer with you guys.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Yes. Welcome, and we're gonna talk about all sorts of cool stuff. Mm-hmm. What do you have there to work on? First of all?
So I have many sisters that I need to build, but they're all in boxes, and that's gonna take forever. So Nox and I started working on the battle sanctum for the Sisters of Battle. Which is like their special terrain. They get a bonus when the terrain's on the field. So I'm gonna build the statue of
cool.
St. Catherine.
Nice. I just saw somebody who was using that model as a base to make a demon princess.
Oh, nice. So I mean, it's really cool. Like the pieces are very like well sculpted and very pretty. So yeah, I could see that.
Cool. So when the new Sisters came out, how much did you invest in the new line of Sisters of Battle?
So when the new Sisters came out a year ago, like I think exactly almost, I was the first in line, and I just bought one box.
Okay.
Just the one basic standard box. However, since the newer stuff has come out, I have gotten other stuff. I got a bunch for my birthday. I got the big St. Catherine like procession model.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really cool. And then I got a tank. And then I think I have one of the special ones that are like made to order, pre-order. That's still on the way.
Yeah.
And yeah. So okay. I've spent enough.
A smattering.
Yeah, it's enough to have like a good basic army, you know, for play. So.
I love that you were the first in line.
Yeah, I was the first.
I love that.
I had my cloak that I wear for Grimdark Dawn on, and
stop. You're like waiting in line for a Star Wars movie.
And I got there like an hour before, and I totally expected there to be more people in the line, and it was just me for like an hour, and then finally someone showed up like 5 minutes before the store opened, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't have to be here for now. But, yeah.
I've done that a few times, shown up to things very, very early.
Yeah. Well, I guess if I remember correctly, like there wasn't good communication on how many boxes there would be, and if like there would be any in the store. So I was like, I'm gonna get there and make sure I get a damn box. And I mean, I did, but
you got it.
I got that box.
Yeah. Well, that was like when the last new Warhammer store opened anywhere near us was in was it Lancaster, and they have when a new store opens, they have a bunch of exclusive things that you can only get at that specific moment. And I had already had the models because friend of mine had gotten them for me previously, but I really wanted the dice, the store opening dice, and I knew that stores only had like a really limited amount. So I got up insanely early that morning and drove to Lancaster, and I was there for hours, just standing there by myself, and then eventually some other people showed up.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you get it. If you ever
Very
been to Comic-Con, like that's the same fucking mentality.
This mofo was one of 12 people to get the dumpster fire toy that took off at Comic-Con.
Nice.
I did manage that.
A day, and like the line started even before people could get into the con, right? Like,
that was a rough one.
That ticket. Yeah, I remember. I don't do that anymore. But
Yeah. Yeah, after that, I don't know if I'm gonna even advertise to my friends anymore that I have my ways of getting Comic-Con exclusive sometimes, but that was rough. that was not fun. Yeah.
There we go.
I have my ways.
I used to help out friends, and like for the first year that I went to Comic-Con, it was fine because like there was barely anyone there. There's still a crap ton of people there. But now like I'm like, pay me.
Yeah.
Pay me, and then I might think about it. Like,
because it's work.
Yeah, it is. Like,
it's work. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm jealous I didn't get the dumpster toy. Like, really, and truthfully, I really wouldn't ask someone to do that. And it was actually just out of the kindness of Scott's heart that he's like, I know someone that we know that Emily wanted it, and he like went out of his way because he's that's like Scott's love language in showing is gift giving. But boy, I was really jealous. I didn't even know I wanted it until I saw it.
Right, I know.
Yeah, that's how that works.
And then it ended up being like an omen for the next year.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that was 2019 already. That's
I know, kind of wild.
Crazy. Yeah.
Time, it's a construct.
So Fab, have you heard of Scott's new, like, what is it? Your armies on parade thing?
No. I don't. We haven't talked about it together. So I
think we should talk about it now, especially because she's going to be building some Sisters of Battle.
Yes.
And you could ideate now.
Sure.
If you're interested.
So Fab, you know about the armies on parade that the Warhammer stores do, or do you know?
Where they display them and
yeah. So everybody builds a parade board or whatever. So it's like a 3-foot square, and then like it's all terrain, and you theme your bases or even more of your models to go with it.
Okay, that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah. So our community, along with Zardoz in our community, is heading it up, and then a few other streamers and people. We're doing our own. So it's not associated with Games Workshop. You don't have to worry about Games Workshop people and their rules and that kind of thing. So we're doing our own thing. It's called Armies on Display, not Armies on Parade.
Okay.
And we're starting out now. We're coming out with we're gonna have rules, but also like all sorts of resources to help people figure out, like even people who are just starting out. Like, okay, you have time now to do this.
Right,
how do you pick your army? How do you pick what models? Build them, paint them, the whole works. And it's going to culminate. We're all going to have it done and shared for people in November of 2022. So, so there's a ways to go. Yes.
Time. Okay, great.
Yes.
I mean, but it will be surprising how quickly that time goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure, but we are encouraging. Yeah, we're encouraging anybody who might have been interested. Like, now is a great time to come on board, and we can help, and we can all work on this stuff together. So if you're interested, I'll get you the information as we go forward.
Maybe it'll I got to get these sisters. They're all still in their boxes.
Well, and I think that's what I like about it the most, especially since like Scott's having Zardoz help project manage, and I said this before, having like a monthly check-in, like, hey, have you built your army? Hey, have you painted them? Like, it's good to, like, how people go, oh, I'm going to join a running group, or I'm going to do a marathon. It's so that you can like motivate yourself to do those things. So if you have like goals and you have to have it done by a certain time, do you want to let Max know that I've missed him very much?
They've been asking when you're coming over.
Oh.
I told them it'll be soon.
Good enough.
Squirrel. No, nobody's doing pink like me. Bob, this is
Hell
this is
yeah,
the
I
new
love
pink I'm
it.
working on for my
I love
Very
holidays.
it.
true.
Yes, that
The
is
orange
a
really
very
works, I
pink.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm working on it. It's getting there. Yeah, Fob, tell everybody where you are exactly.
So I am at my desk, which is in our tavern. Let me explain. Nox and I LARP a lot, and we created a tavern for our LARP, or where we go LARP, called the Scabby Rooster, and it's like a dive bar, crappy tavern that like all the misfits and vagabonds go to, not necessarily the heroes. So that's where I'm sitting at now. You can kind of see it. I'll lift up the camera a little. Woo! It's a lot. But
It
yeah,
is.
so
It's
that's
so cool.
it's we're currently with the pandemic and no one being able to be here for the LARPs that we shoot for our Twitch channel. We've been upgrading it, and we have a bunch of projects. We built a bunch of walls, so now there's even more walls, and where I'm sitting, we're gonna put a hearth with like an actual like
Nice.
little fire heater. So yeah, it's coming along. It's coming
So
along.
Very
okay,
cool.
I have a severe question that
Yes.
not severe but serious.
Yes.
But are you guys gonna serve alcohol to us? Like,
So-
is it like an actual bar or is it just like a bar?
It's so at the LARP that we do, we would bring the Scabby Rooster to. Yes, we would serve alcohol. We would serve. Our motto is we have the finest warm ale and cold stew in all the many realms. So yes, here we don't have the setup for it, but of course we could. It's not like an open bar to the public or anything.
Well, and
It's
that's
like
kind of what I think the
Okay.
world is missing.
yeah.
Like, we have all these pop-ups, and again, not right now, because
Yeah.
it's just not good.
Nope.
There's like no point in investing something like this.
Right.
But you guys like have a business model here to give us the bar that no one has given us yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We've talked about like figuring out a way to travel to different LARPs around the country with our tavern, and like kind of set up
Ooh.
at different LARPs, and like because it's supposed to be like in all the many realms, so it could appear in any realm, even like a sci-fi realm. We have a franchise in cyberpunk even, like so
Cool.
yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
So how much of that is like disassemblable that you could
Ha!
move?
So when we go to LARP, we have a van. Like we have a big old. We are those LARPers. We just need a damn wizard painted like on the side of our van riding a dragon, and then we'll be those people. But we're really close. And we pack a lot of the stuff that's in here. Not like obviously the big bar, but or the big table, but like a lot of the deco and a lot of the boxes actually have our LARP gear in them, so we can take the box, put it in the car, unpack it there, and then have like a cool box for whatever
Nice.
deco. So yeah.
Jessica, you have a question?
I do. Okay, for someone who's never LARPed,
Okay.
and for someone who surprisingly was very self-conscious when I started RPGing, how I've been trying to understand RP2 when it comes to games like World of Warcraft 2. I'm not asking you to answer that question, but I'm like, how the frick do you role play while you're playing a game? But how in character are you the entire time? What's the objective?
Right.
How confusing is it?
So there are a bunch of different like styles and genres of LARP. The one that we mostly do is boffer LARP. So that's when there's a sword that's made of foam that you smack each other with. Usually there's like mechanics involved, and depending on the game, the mechanics can be more complicated or less complicated. The game that we go to, the mechanics are way less complicated, and I love that kind of game. But there are games where there's absolutely no mechanics and no combat, and it's just like you pretending and having fun and improvising. usually there is like a plot person, like a DM or like a, you know, whatever, DM, yeah, that would, you know, has created a story that persists the whole weekend, but you don't have to be a part of that story if you don't want to. Like, you can kind of go off and do whatever you want to do, essentially. So I think, like, especially if you're not necessarily a social person, it can be a little anxiety inducing. But yeah, like I think like it's a little bit more accessible and a little bit more inviting than tabletop RPGs. I LARPed before I did tabletop, so if that helps.
Sounds like a gateway drug.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, how often are you breaking character? Are you not? I guess that's the thing that's intimidating to me too.
So I mean, I break character all the time.
Yeah.
like there are times when like people are more in character or less in character. The game that we play, if you bring a personal tent, your personal tent is out of character. Like, that is a rule in the game, is like that's a space where you can go to if you need to like get away. Like, that's your space, right? That is out of character. If you want it to be in character, you can, but like it's not required that your personal tent has to be in character. There's also like there's mechanics, they're like safety mechanics, especially in more intense, like darker themed games, like horror games, that are safety mechanics. So if like you're not comfortable, you usually you do a sign that's like, I'm not comfortable, and then like you're out of character, and you know, adjust and figure it out until you come back in. So
What is it that draws you in? Like, what is the fulfilling aspect of it for you?
It's definitely a lot of escapism, for sure, because you are literally a different person in a physically different world. That's a huge part for me, and I also really enjoy telling stories. So it's just another form of like storytelling, like theater or something, just a little bit more immersive. So, yeah.
And your character, is it always the same character? Do you bring the same girl or person with you?
So different games, I have different characters, but usually I always play the same character. Except one of the games that I'm also a staff member at, I will also play NPCs. And usually, actually, when you go to play a game, you do have to take an NPC shift, and it's like essentially you helping out and playing non-playable characters or like cast as characters to assist with storytelling.
Cool.
And that's actually, if you're getting into LARP, if you want to try it, I highly recommend doing an NPC shift, or because you can full-time NPC at a game, and it's free usually. Like, you don't have to pay to do it. It's just like you show up, you do what you want to do.
Well, I'd rather get paid to do it.
That's fair. That is fair. And some games
priorities.
And some games do have the budget for that. The game that I played, we don't have the budget for that. So we're like, hey, if you want to come.
Right, and I love the idea of like trying it out that way too.
Yeah. And you don't have to like bring a costume or anything when you NPC. Like, we have all of that for you. We have all the weapons for you.
That's
so
great.
It's like, it's literally like you can come try it out and learn a little bit about the system, the story, the characters, and meet like the players and all of that. So
very, very, very
and
cool.
And I will say there are games that have the budget to pay full-time NPCs. Though again, we just don't.
I'm not asking for a job.
No, but there are companies that like legitimately run this like a business and like have these crazy events that are over $1,000 to attend, and you know, you go to Poland and you go to a castle and like you live in the castle for 4 days or whatever, and they usually have like their staff paid and all that stuff.
Amazing. Yeah. It seems like it's a huge world that you date the wrong guy and you're now a LARPer forever. And you know what I mean? Like you either find the guy that's going to get you into drugs or you find the guy that's going to get you into LARPing.
And then you're never going to do drugs, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It has never crossed my path organically, but not for not being interested in it.
I think as an improviser, I think you would really, really like it because it is pretty much there's like a story and there are some like guidelines, but it's pretty much just like 24/7 improvisation.
God, that's the thing it's like Coachella for role playing,
and it's also not always comical. Like I have had some very serious tears at LARP. So yeah,
and that's healthy though. I think
it is
like,
absolutely. It's cathartic. Like it's like this release of like stress, and that's I think part of the escapism too, right? Is that
are you and Nox a couple in your LARPing games?
We are not actually. We don't. We actually met LARPing, but our characters, all of our characters that we've ever had, have never had like a romantic anything. We're very like, nah.
How do you navigate that when you're in a 24/7 besides your tent, right? Like, do you have romantic situations with other people, or is it just like fun? Or
there are people who do. There are people who do have like romantic relationships with other people. That totally exists. It is a thing that happens in LARP. Not everyone does it though. And it's a lot of like talking and understanding. Actually, one of Nox's characters did have a romantic relationship with another character, but it wasn't like they didn't physically act it out or anything. It was like, hey, like let's have a romantic thing. Cool.
Right, like that's how our story.
Yeah. That's how it is. They because both of them were uncomfortable with it, didn't have like any physical like role play or anything like that. But I mean, it does exist. People do it. I won't deny that.
It's questionable too. Not questionable. With like improv, especially the type of improv I do, it's all narrative and genre work. So it's like we're going towards the story. If I gotta kiss somebody, and again there is consent involved. Yeah, that's what you do to tell this story. Right. And if I'm committed, you do that. Now, are we gonna fuck on stage? No, but no, and no one's asking me to do that either. But I digress.
And part of the safety mechanics that I was talking about includes like consent. So like it is very much there are theories, educational, like scholarly theories, like people have written essays and books about it, about like that kind of like safety mechanics, consent mechanics. Bleed is a really common term where your emotions and your feelings from outside bleed into your character and vice versa, and that also is part of the catharsis. But it can be, if you don't manage it well, affect your mental health on both ends.
It's acting. This is what like people. There's like an argument for and against method acting when it was brought over by Stanislavski, and everyone like Brando and James Dean did this new thing where you lived this character,
right? Yeah.
For the entirety. Now apparently there were two sides of this method, which one you embrace the character for the duration of the project and then decompress via meditation and yoga, but that wasn't encouraged in America at the time. So these people would just walk away from
was like
method
the big
acting.
Split with the group theater, right? Was that like the one guy was like, I'm gonna do it this way, and it was totally like what
Stella Adler went.
And then Stella Adler did the other one, and she was like, no, this is like not right.
Well, because people were going friggin' crazy because they were lost in a role, and they weren't taught the decompress. Like, believe me, there's plenty of guys that I thought I wanted to kiss, but I didn't really want to kiss because I acted in a play with them. So, but I'm not a method actor, but you're right. The bleed is like, well, I'm tapping into that emotion and I've got to find something that I love about them or sexually attracted to about them. And then like, think about how hard I hit on your character when we were doing Rat Queens. That was 95% of the character and 5% Jessica who's got a girl crush. Like, because like, God, this girl's so cool. You know, like, how do I make myself interact with this chick? Well, hit on her. That's the way to do it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, you do need like a mental. I guess that's why I ask, and it's not to like, hey, air your dirty laundry, but I can see that being an interesting element of it.
Yeah, it very much is, and there are essays, and my friend Jonea Kemper, she went to NYU for game development, and her thesis was about how role play can be used, and like the bleed and catharsis in role play can be used to help minority communities. And like, yeah, it's really interesting. Like it's crazy. Like there's a lot of like study in it.
Was it a hypothesis or was it actually tested based off of?
It was tested. Like she went to she traveled to like a bunch of different LARPs in like Europe. She did like a Jane Austen LARP. They were trying to do like
say no more.
Yeah, they were trying to do like kind of like Bridgerton, where it's like this
Regency.
Oh. Yeah, mixed like diverse Regency era, and like she wrote a whole, like, that's a huge part of her essay, and it's really.
I would actually really love to look at that, because the place where I learned improv from is struggling with normalization, and I think they're working towards it. But a lot of their genres are by white people, or mostly white men, and in eras where women and people of color were most likely marginalized, because that's the majority of our history.
Right.
And I'm on the Shonda wavelength, where our workplaces should be normal. Just doesn't mean that these, like, let's say there wasn't slavery or misogyny or women couldn't vote in those eras at the time those actual books were written. Who cares? We're living in a different time.
Right.
Yes, but then it's weird to hold on to the mechanics that women can't own land, and especially with like Jane Austen. I would love to read that. Fascinating. Anyway, sorry, I'm blown away.
No, that's cool. And then I will say Warhammer is a very, very popular LARP genre. Very popular.
What?
Both fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of people doing the fantasy, especially.
Yeah.
And they go all out with those crazy costumes, and
there's a big group in England that's it's called Empire, and they're all based on fantasy Warhammer, and they have a giant orc camp where people fucking
awesome.
pull up, green, chant, be crazy. They have like fights, like pit fights.
It's so great.
And it's crazy. And then there's actually Good Soup was showing me the Warhammer 40k LARP that's in Europe, and it's like you're an Astra Militarum. Like everyone pretty much plays an Astra Militarum, and you're like in the trenches, like fighting orcs. And like,
how many survive?
Yeah. But yeah, so it's a thing.
It's crazy. The only thing I was gonna add to that, because I've never done it either, but when we were at Gen Con and I was helping out with the coverage of the Gen Con Twitch channel and all that stuff, we talked to a group that was running a LARP there, that's been like this one game had been going on for something like 25 years. And like they meet periodically throughout the year, but then they do it the big event at Gen Con, and like it's this whole like they have their own entire world and countries and systems, and like it's its own world. It's crazy. It was amazing.
There's actually surprisingly a lot of LARPs that run at Gen Con that I had heard about a few of them, and then when I went digging, I was like, holy crap! Like one group builds like a whole dungeon in like one of the hotel ballrooms. It's not True Dungeon. It's another group where they build a whole dungeon, and you run through a dungeon with boffer swords and like fighting other NPCs, and then they do also big like ballroom events too. Like the last game is like a ballroom with the king or whatever.
Oh my god!
I was like, what? This is here? Like, and we had just missed it on the last day because we were gonna do it, and so now we know for next Gen Con, whenever that is.
I mean, Gen Con has too much stuff.
So much.
Yeah,
stuff.
that's for sure.
Like, because the last thing I did before the pandemic happened, I was invited to do a panel at PAX East in Boston. And I was like, you know what, I'll go.
Yeah.
I've gone to Gen Con now. And, you know, it was on my own dime, essentially. So that's why it was like a decision in the beginning. It was the perfect size just to meet people, but it's also not the same community as a tabletop community or like these. So that's my next question about LARP. Are the mechanics being taken from a Pathfinder, or like are your classes being taken from Dungeons and Dragons? That's like how you guys build characters, or okay.
So yes, like they are definitely based in, you know, D&D or like obviously Warhammer. However, a lot of the mechanics are built by like whoever owns or ran the game. They're built from the ground up. Yes, they are based on like, you know, if you want to be a paladin from D&D or whatever.
But like no one's a higher level. It's like usually about equally matched. Or...
So it eventually, yes, you get just like a video game. You get XP, and then you can get more skills and all that stuff, depending on the game. The game that I play does have that. And then usually what happens is a character that gets to a higher level will retire, and they'll like, you know, have the hero's journey where they go off into the sunset, and then they start a new character.
Got it.
So it's kind of like this cycle of like, you know, the older character goes off and does the thing, and then they start again.
And then you start again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that.
A lot of times too, plot will, if the character is like a well-known in the story or whatever, they'll have their little retirement, and then that character will become an NPC. That maybe like that player will come back, play the NPC. Of their old character.
I love
and assist with like
it's like
quests
the universe
or like whatever. Yeah.
That's so fun.
It depends on the game. Again, like they're all a little different, but the one that we play very much has this like, you know, circle of life.
I love that
in the game. So. Oh
my god! And now I'm just like picturing like funerals and births and like all these cool things. Like
funerals are so horrible.
I mean,
I cry so much. Sorry.
No, of course.
It's funny because it's like a fake character and your friend's like sitting there like laying down with their eyes closed pretending to be dead, and it's like you're bawling like it's funny.
Yeah,
like
it's a whole world
now,
you're
but
into.
at the time you're crying. It's horrible.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you ever want to come out when all of this is over,
you know I'm going to now.
Let me know.
Well, no, and so I do like the idea of coming in as an NPC because 9 times out of 10, character creation and stats is usually. Well, I like the character creation, but then stats is where I get like roadblocked, and that's mostly because I'm not going to pick up the book and read it, and then even after I've read how to build a ranger 12 times, I'll screw it up. I just won't retain that.
Yeah.
And actually, that's really why I like building characters for hyper RPG because really. They're going to tell you the mechanics. I'm going to act, and that's great. I am in. I will be an NPC. I will ruin someone's day. I can't wait. I will make people cry.
I will say the game that we play has a really amazing new player team where they help new players with like the building of their character and the mechanics and like you know, you can come in, not have read the book, be like, hey, I want to play a ranger, and they'll be like, oh, well, here, we recommend this is like a basic ranger build. Here are some things, they'll talk you through it, and they'll even like assist you with like, oh, you're playing the Celtic people or whatever. The Celtic camp is over here. Their leader is Jimbo or whatever. And you should, when you're in game, you should go talk to them, and like they're very good about like assisting with that. Other games have similar setups. If it's not like a boffer game with mechanics, they'll actually you're always in contact with a person that like helps you build and cast like your character and stuff, and have it fit with the world.
And how many people are in like your guys' world?
Cool. So ours is very large compared to other LARPs. We have about I think it's like 350 to sometimes 500 people that attend. So it's a lot.
I did not understand.
That's crazy.
Yeah, when I first started, there was only 30 players. So there's been like a huge blow up.
Is it because you're hot and they just want to hang out with you?
Maybe. Maybe.
I kind of have a feeling that might be that.
But there are, like, again, when I first started, it was a 30-player game. A lot of those, some of the blockbuster games, they'll keep the amount of, like, audience, essentially, players lower, because they want it to be a more intimate game. But yeah, it ranges. Ours is just very big. There's, the biggest game is in Germany, and it has something like 7,000 people that attend, and
Wow.
it's more of like a Renaissance Fair festival kind of thing that also has combat and like story and role playing, and it lasts a whole week.
Jeez.
You're camping out for a whole week. So
How dirty are people?
oh, very.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask about the crossover with LARPing and things like what's the event where Wasteland, like that kind of stuff.
So Wasteland, like, actually a lot of our LARP friends do go to Wasteland too. I will say Wasteland, I don't believe Wasteland has like an overarching story or like, you know, stats or whatever, but people do like put on a show and pretend. Like our friends that run the Wasted Saint camp, they have a whole story with their thing. They're like Louisiana swamp people, so they have like they have a whole their setup's pretty amazing. It's called the Wasted Saints. You can look them up, but they have a whole facade that's like a French Quarter building that they built, and you can go into it, and they have a stage in there where they do like different performances. They have a little bar in there because, you know, it's Wasteland. Yeah, so like they kind of do have a story, but it's definitely not like as intensely in character or like combat or anything like that at Wasteland. But it is still like it's still kind of like a mini, I would say it's a mini role play event too. So
cool.
I've never been. I want to go, but
yeah, I have friends who do the Wasteland stuff, and they are intense. Way into it. Yeah,
they're way into it.
Like,
yeah.
as soon as it ends,
I'm not that into it. I just want to go visit my friends and be like, oh, this is cool. Like,
yeah, no. As soon as that weekend ends, they're planning for the next year redoing their entire costume and collecting bottle caps and like the whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah. So.
Okay, fine. We'll talk about Warhammer. My God,
we gotta do what the people want.
Sorry, is everyone like?
No, I cared. It's okay. I'm fine.
No, it's all good.
There are Warhammer LARPs. There are Warhammer LARPs. They're really, really cool.
I'm gonna go to the restroom. You will be off on the rails for 2 seconds while I'm gone.
Okay.
So when are you going, or have you thought about doing a Warhammer fantasy LARP in your location?
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, like in here?
Yeah.
Like, we have it. That's a good.
Or is that something you would consider?
I mean, we definitely consider it, for sure. We'd have to figure out things, but yeah, that would be cool. I really want to be a Sylvaneth if we're do fantasy.
Right. I mean, yeah, you can be whatever you want, right? That's the whole point.
But I know there are a few. There was one that we were looking at in like Pennsylvania, I think. That's a fantasy-based Warhammer game.
Okay.
Our friend was gonna go as she was pretty much gonna go as the fantasy sister of battle, like paladin-y kind of person.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that of course didn't happen. So,
yeah.
but
next year we'll go to all the events next year.
Oh, I saw a cat. But yeah. So in the meantime, though, we've just been hanging out, playing video games, working on the space.
Cool.
I need to start building minis. But I think your Armies on Parade idea is a really cool idea to keep people accountable.
Yeah.
Like an accountability group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to work on a project together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my having weekly hobby streams of my own has definitely helped me actually build stuff.
Yeah.
And again, it's hobby time, but it's also, working on something with a community and doing it on stream. So I don't feel bad about doing it.
Right. Yeah. Totally. You still feel like you're getting work done.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a cat.
There is.
Oh yeah, he's being weird.
Okay.
He's
Cats
eating
do
his
that.
mama.
You know, we don't need to talk about it because I've already talked enough. It's okay. We'll talk about it another time. So I have a question though about this the parade stuff, Scott.
Yes.
Armies on display.
Yes.
Under what circumstance would orcs have like a grot? Like, how do they get grots? I forgot how they get grots.
I mean, they all just sort of grow from fungus,
Okay.
and they're all just sort of around.
I think I want to make a grot
Yeah.
farm.
Like a nursery,
Oh.
or like an actual farm, like with like plantings of.
And you're
Hey.
like, or like, yeah, like that screaming plant
Yeah,
from Harry Potter. or
That's
something.
exactly what I
No,
was
right, where they're
thinking.
pulling
Like,
them out-
it's
yeah.
like it's like a mandrake, but a grot farm.
Yeah.
Like
That sounds great.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, and then you have like the big guys who are pulling them out and they're mad. And but again, yeah, I don't have a hard thought. But I was thinking it could be funny to give grots a chance to be front and center of something.
For sure, yeah.
So, what is on the to-do list, Taskmaster?
Well, I mean, we can talk about all the new pre-orders that went online today. We can talk about Sisters of Battle in general, because that's not a faction we've talked about here. And then I just have a bunch of questions for Fob.
Okay, great. I'm gonna continue making my butter toast because I've made a mistake in not eating. Also, I mean, but I
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's go over what's new today.
Hell yeah.
Let me get the.
They just announced a bunch of the Warhammer Day stuff, right?
Yeah. So, well, or they announced the store anniversary models. Yeah, and I don't know if you heard about the controversy that happened.
Oh no.
There was a controversy.
Drama.
Yes.
Oh, I want to know.
So when they
Please
put
tell
up
me.
that article, it talked about the 2 exclusive models that are going to be available at Warhammer stores on their anniversaries. There's a Necron, and then there's a hold on one second here, shrink to fit. Okay, and then there's a Stormcast Eternal for Age of Sigmar. Well, when they first excuse me, when they first put up the article, the paragraph about the Stormcast Eternal character, it had they them pronouns. A couple hours later, it did not have those pronouns anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woof. Well, cowards, you fucking
Yep.
cowards.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was.
But
It was-
was there like hate? Like, was there comments in the comments about like, oh fuck this
Of course.
social? Okay, and that's why.
Yeah,
they changed
of
it.
course,
So they
yeah.
literally.
Ugh. It seems like it. I mean, some people were saying, well, maybe they were typos. Maybe it was like stand-in text that they updated later, and we don't really know. But
Like, fuck
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Like, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
And that's so shitty because like one of the things I really like about the new fantasy stuff is that it's so gender non-conforming. Like,
Yeah.
the Stormcast Eternals are these beefy ass chicks. Like, fuck yes. Like, that's what I want. And just they're there and like.
Yeah. I mean, I guess baby steps is, something.
Yeah.
But
I guess.
yeah.
Well, womp womp womp.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
I missed it.
mean,
What
yeah.
was the thing that they changed?
The pronouns of the Stormcast.
Yeah, there was a non-binary character for about 2 hours, and then suddenly they became he.
That's
Literally.
fucked up. That's actually fucked up. And you know
Yeah.
what? I just watched something today. They deserve to be called out for it, and I'm gonna tweet them
Okay, that's fair.
because you gotta hold people to their ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because like,
Absolutely.
then you're letting those fuckboys win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta write. I gotta
that's
write
fair.
And like there are a lot of pro players, like tournament players that are trans and non-binary, and that's kind of fucking fucked up too.
God
Like,
forbid there be representation.
yeah, like
Yeah.
like these pro players that play on your Twitch channel, you've just pretty much like,
Yeah.
denied their validity.
Yeah.
Like,
What one
sorry.
day?
I don't mean to laugh
I know.
about it. I'm just so fucking
Yeah,
mad.
no, it's a strange, weird, annoying thing. Yeah.
God.
Like I said, at least, I mean, as I've talked about a lot before,
Yeah.
especially over the last 5 or so years, like there's definitely been, you can see it in Games Workshop that there are more diverse models as far as different racial representations and genders. So it's getting better. And I think that's about it.
It's unfortunate that they succumbed to the cowards.
Yeah.
They're cowards.
Yes. Welcome, Zardoz. We were talking about armies on display and LARPing and all sorts of cool stuff. Now we're looking at all the new things that are available starting today, up for pre-order. Get your Death Guard in right now.
Ooh.
So we got the new Combat Patrol, which actually Zardoz made a really cool article about earlier this week, breaking down
he
what
actually did it, or it's actually cool.
No, he actually did a cool article about what's in this box.
I mean, it's actually cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great breakdown. Whenever one of these things comes out, a start collecting or a combat patrol, it's really interesting to see. Okay, what is in the box? What things might be new? How do these things work together? What kind of army are they sort of leading you down the path toward with this box? Because the idea is you buy this and you can play it right out of the box, and you could use it as a basis for a larger army when you start adding other things to it. And so, like, this one I thought was really interesting because it's all very slow infantry. So that's going to really set a theme for your army, and then influence and maybe inspire what you would get afterward to make a bigger army. So anyway, Combat Patrol. Check out Zardoz's article. We'll get a link to it. And it is $140, and for that you get Typhus, the very famous big character in Death Guard, which is also interesting that they included a character like that in one of these boxes. Yeah. And then another character called the Biologus Purifier, and then Plague Marines, and a whole bunch of Poxwalkers.
Nice.
Gross. And then of course we have the new Codex, which is up for pre-order. There are 2 versions. Games Workshop usually does this with their bigger books. You can get the standard version for $50, or you can get a really fancy one with a fancier cover and the little bookmark thing for $80. So there, if you're really into all the Death Guard business. Thank you, Zardoz. There's the link to that. This is the Lord of Virulence. The article said that in the box you get a purifier. I don't know. Maybe I was reading an old text. But yeah, this is the new character, the Lord of Virulence. He's gross. He's got a twin plague spear. You can literally see the goop dripping off of his claw right there.
I remember seeing this because of the very unfortunately placed thing on his middle.
Oh yeah, he's got a growth.
Yeah, he has a growth. Hey, whatever. As long as it's good. And he's into it.
Hey, yeah. we're not kink shaming anyone.
Yeah, no, whatever.
Yeah, and then of course the disgusting bong. What do they call this silly thing?
Oh.
It is the miasmic malignifier, and it essentially spits out toxic gas.
That looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great terrain piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of a gross thing. It's got tentacles and ooey, drippy bits and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so all this stuff you can pre-order starting today. It'll come out, I think it comes out next week, or, I mean, I don't know. The schedule is all weird this time around. So if you are really, really into Death Guard and you don't have anything yet, you can... Games Workshop offers these ridiculous bundles, typically through the website, where if you wanted to, you could pre-order everything that comes out today, including some stuff that's just reboxed in new packaging, and they call it the Contamination Core Collection for $430, but that'll get you just a massive amount of crap, and like the limited edition version of the Codex, and all sorts of neat stuff. So yes, if you're looking to start a Death Guard army, do that, I guess.
Dive in, just jump in there. That's what
get
that
all
is.
the things.
That's the fuck it. Let's go.
Yeah. I did want to mention, we talked a little bit last week about the new issue of White Dwarf, so the magazine for Warhammer, both fantasy and 40k, and covering Blood Bowl and Necromunda and all their other games. But Erdansk, that's, I mean, I will say that when you get these big bundles, it is a lot of models and a lot of stuff. So if you are starting out, you do get a lot of stuff for it. This is all I will say, I guess. But yeah, so this was a novel that came out a couple of years ago, Spear of the Empire, or Emperor rather, by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. And what they're doing in the White Dwarfs is they're taking these chapters of Space Marines from fiction or from like people in the Warhammer organization who've created their own chapters, and they're actually giving them rules, giving them, like what planets do they come from, what are their
background lore.
Yeah, exactly. Background lore, their what is the word? Their traditions and things like that, and then giving them rules in White Dwarf, which is super cool. This specific chapter has blown up in the community because they look really pretty. It's a really nice blue and white color scheme, and they have these cool spears you can give them. They also use tridents and stuff. So in the new White Dwarf, they actually have rules for it. They give you some painting tips, and yeah, it's cool.
Are those tanks?
Yeah, back there's a
similar chassis.
Yeah, the one on the screen right. Which one is that? Oh yeah, the one on the left is a repulsor. So that's the bigger version than the one that I just did, and the one on the right is an impulsor. Yeah, but yeah, so those are cool. If you're into doing something a little bit different with your Space Marines. I just wanted to say with the Death Guard, they also gave us some rules for the Crusade. So Crusade is a whole new system of playing the game that is a lot more narrative based. So it's much more like what we've been doing on Grimdark Dawn for the last few years. Play with actual characters and a storyline, and why are these two armies fighting each other? Like crazy, right? Like you would think about that for your games. But the Crusade system is really cool because you essentially build your army list, and then you start playing games. And yeah, exactly as Zardoz says, units gain experience points, and then you can spend those on upgrades. Units that are destroyed, you can get essentially like drawbacks for them. They've got lingering wounds that stick with them. There's all sorts of really cool things. Yeah, and each codex gives you rules for that, and basically faction specific things that you can do, and it's really, really cool. So for instance, for Death Guard, they have plagues. So each army has a different plague, and that consists of a vector, an infection, and a terminus. And essentially when you start your crusade, you roll for those, but then as you get points, you could alter or increase the abilities for them. So they give an example of so one thing you could get for your Death Guard army is the hemorrhaging pitted ulcers plague. And essentially what happens is at the end of your movement phase, you roll a d6 for any enemies who are near your plague carriers, and they could potentially become contaminated. And then in the infection phase is that they get a -1 to shoot in. And then the terminus phase is essentially at the end of a turn you will roll, and so you're rolling for your enemy, and if you roll low, which means it's bad for them, then the infection can spread throughout their army, and then on a high roll, which is bad for you, good for them, they manage to fight off the contamination.
All right.
So again, just really fun, really narrative, faction specific rules, which are cool. There's a boon roll, so you can give your characters gifts of Nurgle, so all sorts of crazy buffs. They can become stronger or faster or whatever. But it does still include the very, very traditional bad roll that could just turn your character into a chaos spawn, which has been around
if you hit a 1
forever. Yeah, it's like it's technically like a D33 the way the rolls work. You roll 3 dice and then it's or no, that's for the other one. Yeah, it's usually like double ones are, and then you turn into a Gibberin monster.
I mean, could you use that to your advantage?
Possibly if your character was
you, right.
right, it's not killing you. It's just turning you into a creature. And spawns aren't as terrible as they used to be, or spawn. I guess spawn is plural as well as singular. But yeah, I mean, if you had a really low power character that turned into a spawn, it might not be so bad. But typically, your characters are really good, and you would be sad if it turned into a spawn.
But you could still inflict danger, maybe, or inflict.
Yeah. They're still. Yes. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's fun.
Okay.
And then, and I did wanted to note for anybody who's following the Horus Heresy, there are new books coming out.
Oh, cool.
Very, very soon. So the second, right. So the Horus Heresy is this really long novel series depicting the events of the Horus Heresy. So when the Space Marines split, half of them fell to chaos. Fight, siege. So now we're in the Siege of Terra part, the finale of the Horus Heresy, which I think is going to be 7 or 8 books.
Damn.
But now they're also adding novellas to it, which is something.
Yeah, they gotta make that money.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna make as much as they can.
Yeah. So the second novella in the series is coming out, The Fury of Magnus, that's going to tell the end of Magnus's journey from peace on Prospero to treachery on Terra, and we've talked a little bit about Magnus. Magnus is the Primarch of the Thousand Suns. Arguably he's the second most powerful Psyker in the universe after the Emperor. He tried to warn the Emperor about what was going on with Horus, but it destroyed the Emperor's Webway project. It's complicated. People love to argue about whether Magnus was he was trying to be a good guy and it's not his fault that things went bad, but there's certainly plenty of arguments you can make on the other side. But in the recent years, they've added a whole bunch of other aspects to Magnus's story. Like when he did that big thing, it like split his psyche into a bunch of shards, and it's kind of
he became Voldemort. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's kind of a garbage story.
Uh-huh.
I think I don't think it's great, but so this novella should tie up some of these loose ends that they've been teasing out over the last few years. But then the next actual novel is Siege of Terra Book 5, Mortis. And so this is going to involve all of the Titans, essentially. So Horus is landing all of his Titans on Terra, and they're going to fight with the good guys. And there have been a few Titan-focused books over the last couple of years. Titan Death was another really good one. So those are cool. And you've got these giant robots fighting and killing each other. I recommend them.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's all the new stuff that's happening. And then, didn't like that picture. Where'd it go? Oh well, that's fine. And then we can talk about sisters. So what do you think, Jessica? Is this your aesthetic?
I want her.
That's the original, the first art that came out of a sister.
That is
Yeah.
so
I think
hot.
it was in White Dwarf.
Yeah.
And it was there never been any mention of sisters in books, in anything, and this one person just made this art. And people loved it so much, they made a whole army.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want her.
Yeah.
She's pretty rad.
She's like
cool.
Sia.
Yeah. Yeah, so that hairstyle has continued on. That's definitely a hallmark of the sisters. They don't all have it, but it's definitely out there.
It's part of the lore of the hair is that when Saint Catherine first entered the room with the golden throne, her hair turned white. So that's part of the it's in the whatever the military, the sisters dress code. that's part of the. It's not required, but it is part of the okayed hairstyles. So and they'll dye their hair white to in honor of Saint Catherine.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, what are the Sisters of Battle? They've later gotten a very, very long backstory. We won't.
God.
we won't go into all of it.
Yeah, they fixed some problems with the new stuff, thankfully. But...
Yes, yeah, and yes, and the Sisters of Battle have gotten several major upgrades over the years as far as lore, and then especially with models. Like Fab was saying about, was it a year ago, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, the new models. Yeah, it was a year ago. It was
a year ago. Okay.
When the new ones came out. The new models are very amazing, very well sculpted, as well as like they though they still have boob armor, which I think is not a big deal. They definitely improved the Repentia sculpts.
Yes.
They were a problem.
Yeah, so I actually have a section in my notes here to talk about.
We'll get there. there.
So basically, we should start out with saying this. So basically, Games Workshop has always had a little bit of trouble sort of staying focused with this army and not drifting into sexy time ladies and like porn slave kind of ladies, like the suffering of women kind of trope. So we'll be on the lookout for that as we go through this stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially, in brief, the way the Sisters came about are exactly, Zardoz, the Repentia and the Penitent engines, which we'll talk about.
We'll talk about it.
Way back in M36, so sort of halfway between Horus Heresy and modern 40k. The ecclesiarchy of the Imperium of Man, so basically the church part of it, got too powerful. There was an insane guy in charge. He did a whole bunch of stuff, and
he tried to overthrow the emperor. Essentially, he tried to become the new emperor, and they were like, "Nah, dude, not cool." And,
And so and it started a civil war, and part of what came out of that was a rule that, and there were female troops from a specific planet. Like it's this whole other weird backstory, but they were sort of around. But it came out that after this civil war, one of the rules that was written down was the Adeptus Ministorum, which is the ecclesiarchy, may not have any men under arms, so they can never threaten to take over again. Okay, so what's the loophole if you can't have men under arms?
You can have ladies.
You can have ladies.
Because
so the well, yes. So the ecclesiarchy gets their own army, and it's all ladies. They're recruited from the Schola Progenium, which I've mentioned before. I don't know how much we've talked about it, but essentially, we've talked about the Imperium of Man a whole bunch of times, and how brutal and grinding it is, and everybody's dying, and most people either slave away on a terrible planet and die young, or they're drafted into the Astra Militarum and die 5 minutes later. So what happens is you have an entire universe of human suffering that generates a whole lot of orphans.
Yeah, or roaches. We're the roaches of the universe.
Yeah. So there's this entire program, this Schola Progenium, that takes in every orphan, and the best of the best orphans get to go on to do cool stuff. The girls get to go be Sisters of Battle. The boys get to go be commissars.
And because technically
they've got to be.
They can go to other things technically.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and of course there are ladies in the Astra Militarum doing cool stuff too. But yes, the sisterhood picks the best of the best. Yeah, exactly. It's like no man can do this. But ladies can.
Ladies can. There's the caveat.
Yes. They have to be the best qualified and also the most religious and zealous lovers of the Emperor. Oh yeah, so here's some other pictures. This is a more recent one.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean
that
they're
one.
super cool looking.
That was the brand new art to announce like the new sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fucking rad. Huh. I love
Yeah,
it.
and you'll see in the artwork, traditionally they have black armor with red and white accents, but in the books they give you several different orders that you can pick from and play. They're basically sub-factions, and they have slightly different color schemes, and then of course you can just make your own if
And
you really wanted to.
in the sisters books, they do mostly follow the black and red girls, which are the oh my god. Why can't I think of it?
The something Rose? Is it the
no,
Rose one or
they're
is that the other one?
Martyred
Martyred
ladies.
Lady.
They're
Okay,
the martyred
yeah.
ladies. And yeah, so they're like the most popular, like mostly mostly sisters are martyred ladies, but they do have a bunch of other orders. In Grimdark Dawn, I played Valorous Heart. There's also like Evan Chalice. There's Sacred
What's
Rose.
the Sacred Rose? Okay.
There's another one. There's 2 roses.
Oh, is there a Bloody Rose?
Yeah, Bloody Rose I think
Is
might
that
be
the
the
other-
other
okay.
one.
Bloody
And then
Rose,
there's
cool.
sub-factions under that too. So in the Martyred Lady, the sub-faction that they talk about in the books is the Serenity, Lady Serenity or whatever, and they're the Hospitalers. So they're the healers of the
Sure.
of the Martyred Lady group. Yeah. So it's complicated, but yeah, the red and black is like the traditional what you normally would see.
Yes. Oh, and then this lady, she's got fire in her backpack, which is just a thing that some people do.
Canoness is usually have the fire on the back.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Because it's metal as fuck.
That's true.
That's like I think like yes, having like female like army is cool, but honestly what really like I love about the sisters is they're metal as fuck. Like fuck it, here's some flames. Yeah, we have some weird robotic cherub things that are pulling this cart because fuck it. Like
wow.
Like, that's why I like the sisters, but
yeah, and they are a very popular faction, a very popular army, especially when they got new models, and you can actually do cool stuff with them.
Hi, Chavixani.
They still die at an alarming rate in the fiction, and some of the authors really love to go on and on about the ladies dying in battle. It's a thing.
That one is the lady with the white hood. She's a hospitaler.
Yeah, so she's got the backpack with the things to help, fix up people or just help them pass on to the Emperor's embrace.
Yes.
as the case may be.
Yes.
And then we'll talk also there are saints.
Yes.
So this is Celestine in particular, and saints are interesting, especially Celestine, because there's not really a good explanation for what it is that what she is exactly. Celestine she was a lady warrior and she died.
She actually was a Repentia.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
she was a sister Repentia and she was slaughtered.
Yeah, and then she came back.
Yep.
And then she fights, and then she dies, and then she comes back.
So she's Jesus.
Kind
yeah,
of.
kinda.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
How does she keep coming back?
It's not really known. They just presume it's the Emperor's like will. That is what.
Yeah, somehow
is bringing
she's.
her back.
Yeah, and she'll appear at big, impactful battles.
Yeah.
And she'll just show up.
Yeah, she'll just show up and be like, "I'm here," and then just disappear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the artwork obviously is really, there's some really cool art of her. Yes, some people suspect that she might be some sort of a demon, as Zardes is saying, or somehow connected to demon energy. But yeah, the Sisters of Battle have their mechanics in the game is that they literally rely on their faith in the Emperor to get certain bonuses, and that translates to even in the lore and in the novels, like they pray really hard to the Emperor, and then like good stuff happens to them.
Wow.
Or helpful stuff.
The more it's kind of kind of cool and empowering, because the idea is like the more sisters that there are working together, the stronger they are. So like in the game mechanic, it's like if you have more sisters on the field, then you get more command points or whatever. I don't know what I haven't played fully.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the newest version is, but
that was the old one. Was like if you had the more sisters you had, the more bonuses you got. And then in the books, there's actually a whole lot that goes along with that. So,
yeah. And all of this stuff really goes to say that the emperor is a god. I mean, they get like people pray to him, and they get bonuses from it. Like he's a god.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny it when you have stuff like this. So this is so I'm going to show some pictures of the current model line, which, like Fab was saying, just came out relatively recently. And I do have some examples here of the old model line. And when we say old, oh my god, are these models old?
They are old.
Let me go
they are made of metal.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that's the first model of color that I've seen, a person of color in the world.
There are a handful, but that's definitely one of the...
I will say when these the new artists that they have, when the sisters were announced, they were really pushing like different model colors, which is great.
Yeah.
Like I that was the first thing when they started showing the colored versions. I was like, fuck yeah, like they're more different.
Yeah.
And I will say in the book, the voice actor that did the Faith and Fire books, she actually makes a really great point to have the characters have diverse voices. Like one of the characters that you first meet that's from a different order, she's actually like South African, and she puts on like a South African accent. It's kind of cool. Like one other girl is like the name is very like Japanese, so she kind of has like a slight like Japanese accent. It was kind of cool. Like that was one thing that I really enjoyed about the books, is like the voice actress did she did a really good job with it.
That is cool. That's
cool. And again, the Sisters of Battle are literally recruited from orphans that are sourced from a billion worlds, so they can be anything. Yeah, anything.
My favorite thing. So wait, really quick. Did you paint these, Scott, or did you buy them?
No. These are this is not my army. It's just an army I have on hand because we used it for Grimdark Dawn. It's a friend's army. And these are very old models, but they're very well painted.
My favorite story is Carl Sagan is, I think, on Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson goes, Carl, what do you think of the new Star Wars? Or it's like David Letterman, I don't remember who. And he goes, I think it's highly unlikely that everyone's white. That there isn't a person of color.
So good. Yeah.
So cool.
Let me get back to... how do I do it? There we go. Yeah, so in the hierarchy, which is it's a good word because they're very religious, and so this is a canonist. They're the ones who are in charge, and the canonist kit has a whole bunch of different options here for different weapons and different accessories and things. And again, you can paint them however you want. So yeah, that's like the old
canonists are they're kind of in charge. They're like the leaders of that. Of like the martyred ladies, or like the leaders of the Valor's Heart or whatever. They're kind of the head honchos of the group.
Mm-hmm.
The leader of the martyred ladies, the canoness, was Galatea for a while, but I believe she has died in the books.
Yeah, and right. So yeah, the canonists are right. They're like the on-field, right? Because there are prioresses and abbesses who are technically above them. Yes.
Yeah, there are.
Remembering all of my lore.
But
yeah.
But the canonesses, they're like the females that are in charge of the rest of the group.
Yeah. And so when we talk about diversity in our Warhammer factions, one of the issues, because people will often say, when we're having a friendly discussion and somebody says, I wish there was more there was more female representation in the models and the factions. People often say, you've got Sisters of Battle. What, female Space Marines? You've got Sisters, just play Sisters of Battle.
Yeah.
You don't need an all-female army, you've got Sisters of Battle. There are certain things about that argument that are, well, I mean, there's a lot about that argument that's crappy, but one of the things is, while Sisters of Battle are super cool, they look neat, they're fun to play, technically the army is not all ladies. There are male characters that you pretty much need to play in order to have a good list.
And in the lore, there are men that are in charge of them.
Yeah.
And that is actually a huge part of the book. There is a male priest that is like he pretty much can order the canonists around.
So
it's shitty, but they do talk about it in the book, and it is kind of cool in the book what happens to him. So. But so so everything, like I said, everything I'm showing now are the current models, and they look absolutely great. They are great models. You've got a lot of interesting things they did with it. Like there's the one at the top who's bald. Now. Like in looking at your old models, they're just very much the same pose. Like, oh, I have my fire gun, and these are just like fucking. I want an explosion behind them as they walk into battle. Like they're so good. Yeah, they're
running. They're pulling grenades. They're just doing all sorts of great stuff. Let's see. So this is the new. Which one is this? Is this the? This is the new Husk. Yeah. Yeah, so she's the healer one. Oh yeah, of course. Look at the. She's got
so good. She has a dead
body on the ground.
Yeah. It's so good.
And the little the dove holding up the.
God, that is so cool. It kind of looks like those doves that you balance on your finger a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of doves that show up in Sisters of Battle stuff. Oh, and I should say, when we're talking about the names, there are several different names for this organization. So technically, they are the Adepta Sororitas.
Ooh.
More often called Sisters of Battle. There are several names that the community has given them. Nuns with Guns is the nicer term.
Yep.
There are other terms that are not quite so nice. I don't know that we need to.
I want to know.
Bolter bitches.
That's the
That's the gendered one. Bolter bitches.
So,
yes. Yeah, that's the name of the gun they use.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. Like I think it's like between like girls.
Yes.
It's cool.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
I think like with like a dude can easily use it and make it naked.
Yes, it could absolutely be derogatory, but I could see a contingency of the Sisters of Battle in their own lore. Like, we're bolter bitches.
We're the bolter bitches, motherfucker. Right. We're gonna kill you.
Yeah. But when a guy shows up to a tournament and the other guy's like, oh, what are you playing bolter bitches? Like that's not as good.
You go to the judge and go, I'd like this guy removed. I'm not even gonna play him. Like you know what I mean? Like I've got nothing to prove to you, dinghat.
Sure, yeah.
So this, not to be overly woke, and we'll move on, but obviously it seems like they just don't have any women working for them. So you know what I mean?
So when they first did the Sisters of Battle, it was absolutely a bunch of dudes who made them. You can tell in like the old sculpts in the old lore. It absolutely. I will say with the revamp, they have been adding a lot more women writers, which is great. Yes. Like the Severina Rain, the female commissar, that was a woman writer. They had a woman write that book and make all the lore for her and stuff. Again, it's still, there's problems, but it is getting a lot better with having more like ladies in there to help.
Basically what representation boils down to. It's like then you don't get the people that are like, okay, you got Captain Marvel, we're good. Like it's out of 30 films to have only one female-led film, right? Like that's like that. There's incongruent just to the amount of women on the planet. But I guess it's more than that though, too, because we play it and we're interested in it.
And I will say they made this army specifically to try and get more women to play Warhammer.
Right.
It was definitely a marketing, like, idea. Oh, well, we need more representation in our armies. Let's make an all-lady army. And, like, that's what, this is what it is. So, I mean, they had good intentions, I guess, but, like, obviously...
It's got to start somewhere, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's got to start somewhere, and
Yeah.
if that's the goal, because, like, even like YouTube, right? YouTube is a shithole for people's horrible comments because the economy is most focused on 12-year-old boys because they do the majority of the spending, or at least
Yes.
that's what the perception is. So to start somewhere is absolutely all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Oh, but now it's here.
We got Janelle. Welcome,
Hi.
Janelle. We're talking about cool ladies. Very cool ladies. Yeah, speaking of how crappy YouTube is, if you're I'm not gonna talk too much about politics, but there's a channel that does political commentary called the Surfs TV. They're really good. I love to listen to Lance. He's a Canadian, but he talks about like American politics a lot. And YouTube just killed their channel last night because a bunch of chuds reported a video that there was nothing wrong with it. In the video, they were talking about a harassment campaign about somebody else, but they reported it as harassment. It's total garbage. So if you see any tweets about that, just retweet because they could use the help getting back. Anyway, the sisters love heavy weapons with lots of fire. That's sort of their thing.
Yes.
So these are retributors. And again, you can outfit them with these really heavy weapons, and they have more of their little cherubs up there.
Part of the sisters' like doctrine is like the Holy Trinity, and it's fire. I forgot. It's the three weapons that they normally use, and that's their like. They'll talk about like the Trinity. Yeah, the Holy Trinity: Bolter, Flamer, and Milta. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like actually in their lore that they that they have. So it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. So when I refer to the Holy Bolter, it is holy because it was given to them by the Emperor. So it is.
Yes. And it is
holy.
Blessed.
Yes.
It is.
It's rad.
Metal as fuck.
Yeah. Oh, so basically, just to go take one step back. So Sisters of Battle, they are just humans. They're not Space Marines. They don't have a bunch of implants. They might have a little cybernetics, like you'll see some of them with like a cybernetic eye or something, but they're not augmented humans.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they're not mutants. They don't have any augmentations like that. So they are wearing power armor, but there's this dumb lore bit that because they're not transhuman, they're not quite as good in their power armor as Space Marines. Fucking gag me.
Yeah.
But like they make that note.
It's also like there's something in the lore too that like the women couldn't survive the whatever the mutant gene, whatever the mutation. Essentially, women couldn't survive it, so that's
Yeah,
why.
it's
just
dumb.
like all right.
Totally unnecessary and dumb. Yeah.
Bullshit.
And then a lot of
they have added cool things to kind of explain in the new models, kind of explain that, which I think are cool. But yeah, you'll see when we get
like
there.
the fact that so you're saying that the genitals aren't mutated as well, right? So like they could have babies. Do they deal with that?
I don't think they do. They don't. I don't think there's a rule that says they can't.
Because
I don't think so. But they're essentially nuns. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
They're at times they've been called like the wives of the Emperor.
That was part of their.
So
gag me. That was that was part of their first like initial storyline that they did end up retconning and changing later through the story. And now they're called the Daughters of the Emperor, which is still gross, but at least it's not brides.
Yeah. Yeah, like Brides of Christ. Yeah, exactly. It's
exactly what Zardoz said.
Yeah.
That's the intonation there.
Yeah.
Or the connotation.
Yeah. And in the books, they are definitely considered like higher in status compared to like a basic human being. And there is a scene in one of the books where there's like a group of them that's on a ship going to the planet, and you know, one guy's being gross and like whatever, and the girl walks up like fucking full on armor, is like, "Can I help you?" And he's like, "Oh god, I'm so sorry, I should never have done that, oh my god, you're a blessed woman." And like it's kind of funny and cool, but it's also like it exists in that world, as well as there is they do make a point to show that the women are of higher status, and they are like not to be touched or messed with or even thought of vilely. So
yeah.
Question.
Kick your ass. Yeah.
Is there sex in Warhammer 40K in general?
There is.
Yeah.
Usually yeah. I mean, usually it's either humans gotta keep making babies just to feed the machine of war, or things like the Drukhari, the Dark Eldar. They're doing all sorts of gross, crazy stuff, but they don't really get into it. But it usually comes down to like one of those two things.
Oh, really? Interesting. Good Soup says one of the Abram Gaunt has sex in one of the books.
Because that's actually a good thing that they've made them on the more non-sexual side, because it would be it's one thing to sexualize women, it's another to not have sex really mentioned anywhere else.
Sure.
And then these are, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Warhammer 40K, if you go back and read like the all of the initial lore that they started out with, it's, for better or for worse, a lot of it is really homoerotic, but it doesn't get into actual physical stuff. And then so the world has sort of gone on from there. And yeah, there's not a lot of really talk about sex in Warhammer.
It's kind of Spartan in a way.
Yeah, and
homoeroticism, at least.
Yeah, and again, like there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know how much it was intended. No, I absolutely don't. Well,
I'm joking.
I'm always cautious when I talk about those elements, because I obviously don't have anything wrong with it, but I worry about how the people who wrote this stuff, were they intending to put in there? Were they making fun of things?
Was it a joke? Yeah.
Right. Was it a joke? Did they do it accidentally just because they had other things going on there? I don't know, and I don't know enough about the original
I feel
writers.
Like, if you go back to the demons of Slaanesh, I think. Originally, when they came out, they were supposed to be they're non-gendered, or they're both gendered. It's like the when you see their sculpts, one side they have a breast and the other side they don't, and the breast is covered and the male pectoral is not. And like when they first came out, people were fucking upset by it. Like they were offended, like grossed out by it. And I think then they were trying to make it like a joke. And it was like, well, look at these dumb demons, like, you know, kind of thing. But now they have kind of changed and kind of been a little bit more empowering in that they are, you know, the non-binary or both gendered kind of army representation. Yeah. And they're fucking rad. Like that Prince of Prince of Pleasure, that's like the goat guy. Oh man, he's so
Oh, I was gonna ask if he was hot, but never mind.
He's hot. No, he's hot. But it's very androgynous. Like the sculpt is very, very, very androgynous, which is cool. It's also like it's weird. I love Slaanesh. they're so cool. Anyway, back to sisters.
Yes.
The Cupids are pretty fun. They're like robot mutant humans that like were test tube creatures or something. They didn't. Yeah, they're not fully formed humans.
But they are actually part human, which is highly disturbing.
Yeah. And they like assist. They'll bring in their like support for the
Mm-hmm.
the sisters. They're pretty fun.
Yeah, or they carry little bombs and
Yeah.
things.
They'll bring you
'Cause,
weapons.
sure.
It's fun. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Totally not real babies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all. And then sisters also have these cool flying troops. There used to be just seraphim. Now they have a couple of different versions depending on how you want to outfit them, and they just gave them more biblical angel names essentially. But they're neat. The models are really cool. I have a couple of the old ones. These are not painted, but you can see it. They're very similar. They have these little goofy flying stands. Just little sticks under their feet.
Yeah, because it looks
Yeah.
like one of those backward gazelle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is cool too. Ooh.
So the sisters have some of the coolest vehicles in all of 40K.
Yeah.
That is
This
so
is the new
extra.
one. This
Yeah,
is the
so-
new one.
So this is an immolator. I'll show you what the old one looks like.
This is the one I got for my birthday because I was
Nice.
like, I want to paint that glass.
Uh-huh.
That was like I want to paint the glass.
Hold on a second. So this is the original. So it's a Rhino chassis, just like the Space Marines have, and then it has this turret with twin heavy flamers on top, and it looks cool. It's got a bunch of decoration.
She's
Yeah.
in the thing, yeah.
So it's
Cool.
neat.
Did you paint
But
it?
no, like I said, this is all a friend's
got it.
army. But hold on, how do I get back to? There we go. But yeah, this new one is amazing.
Oh, look at the statues on the inside.
Mhm.
I want it now.
Hey,
I
this
want
could be your new army.
It could be my second army.
Yep. And that whole stained glass thing, and it has a bunch of interesting alternate parts you can do. Yeah, it's really cool. And then again, it has the twin heavy flamers, which are so great.
Dreadlord,
you for the
don't yell at
reminder,
me, but I'm grateful still. I've been having problems with it. Not any. It's me problems.
Yeah, so that's the immolator, and the other famous one, which again I'll show picture. Oh, hold on. So again, these old models were everything
That's made
above
of
the
solid
Rhino.
metal.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is incredibly
It's
heavy.
Yeah. We use those on Grimdark, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh fuck.
So this is an exorcist. So you've got the lady here in charge, and then it's a giant pipe organ that shoots missiles.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Because part of the sisters' lore too is when they are walking into battle, they're singing like hymns and prayers. So like part of it is that organs fucking playing, singing hymns and prayers, and then also rockets. Yeah.
Look at that copper. That brass.
Yeah, and
Nice.
it's so cool. And on the new one, you can actually see the missiles in the tubes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
Are you sure they're missiles? They look like peepees.
They are missiles. Thanks for hanging out, Zardoz.
Bye.
That could be a fun conversion.
I
Like,
mean,
there's this one chick that's like, ha!
I mean, sure. Hey. Oh yeah,
all
no.
the dicks.
The sisters are not about stealth at all. They're just rampaging and burning everything as they go.
Yeah.
That's definitely more their
those
style.
fire cups are sick, man.
Hmm. Yeah, they're really cool. And there are details about these two vehicles that are, just to get into the weeds a little bit, but these so they are Rhino chassis vehicles, but they're based on old like Horus Heresy era Rhinos. So they have the front's a little bit different and the sides are different where it has that rounded part. It's very cool. It's super neat.
Does anyone ever go the extra mile and make the tread actually move?
I'm sure someone has.
Yeah, you
Would find it really hard to do that, right? It would
You would,
probably-
yeah, as the kit itself doesn't come with enough parts for it to move, but so you'd have to like build your own
Yeah.
mechanism. But I'm sure people have done it. People, you name it, people have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
At Gen Con last time I went, there was this guy that made a Drakari army that had LEDs in it. It was really cool. Like he put a bunch of sound effects and LEDs into
Wow.
his army. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen people build Bluetooth speakers into their vehicles.
Yeah, that's fucking cool. I want to do
It's
that.
it's bonkers. Okay, so then let's talk about. So these are the Repentia or Repentii.
These are the new Repentia.
Yeah, the new ones. Thank goodness. I don't have any pictures of the old ones.
Oh, you want me to find some? I'll send them to you right now.
Because the army that I have here doesn't have any.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so these ladies, these are sisters of battle who did not quite live up to the
They've
expectations. They've
sinned.
sinned. Yes,
Yeah.
they're sinners. So they're forced to go into battle with no armor on,
What?
wielding these these
actually,
chain swords.
It's this is part of the contention of this. Here, I'm gonna send you.
Because they're sinners. Like, that's bad.
So
Yeah.
in the book, there's actually you witness this happen to one of the girls in the troop that you follow, and so a lot of oh god, okay, here we go. So part of the sisters' job is to find the traitors within the ecclesiarchy, as well as to kill psychers. That they're out to kill psychers. And in the book, the troop of sisters that you're following has to escort a dangerous psyker to Ophelia, where the sisters of the martyred ladies' churches, so he can get the proper, justice
Ophelia.
that is deserved. Yeah, it's Ophelia 4, I think, is the planet. And the psyker gets loose, and because he's a really powerful psyker, and he ends up taking over the mind of one of the girls in the troop, and she assists in his escape and kills some people along the way. So when they finally get to the church to talk about it, and they have their mass, the priest, the male priest that I was talking about, comes in and demands that this woman, and a couple others too, but specifically this woman in the troop, gets demoted to a Repentia. And it's a whole service that they do to the girl, and pretty much they strip her of her armor, they strip her of her clothes. She is butt naked in the church, and the person who's in charge of her troop takes her cloak, and her cloak becomes the last vestibule of her status as a sister, and that's what happens. So it's fucked up for a couple reasons.
Yeah, so here's some of the old models.
Yeah, I was about to send this to you.
Yeah, it's you could call it problematic. Would be a good way of. And so they're complete zealots. They just run into battle. They just try to kill as many things as possible. Now, it is technically possible for them to do well enough in battle that they get reinstated.
Yes.
As
sisters,
full sisters, but it's very rare. They're mainly just shock troops to go out and get slaughtered.
Sexy, though. I'm with Melpomeno that the previous picture still has S&M undertones.
Oh, for sure. Here, I'll go back to.
Especially with the leader of that troop is a full sister, and she has a whip.
I mean,
like, it's very S&M, like,
here, let me bring it
sexy time, ladies time. I will say I love the new ones, however, because it still kind of keeps it's not as sexy. The first of all, the women are beefcakes.
Yeah.
So fuck yes, they're like actually look like they can do some damage.
Right.
Yeah, they have muscles. They're not
cloaks,
cheesecake models.
They're not wearing like their strip of fabric anymore. They're obviously wearing whatever their Under Armour was. And they have these bolts on them now, and that is where the power armor hooks into. So they literally all the women have these, even the ones armored have these like bolts on them so they can hook their armor in.
Whoa.
Which is fucking rad.
Yeah.
Like, that's sick. Like, I'm into that. So yeah.
but they're not as cool as Space Marines. Like
Right,
yeah,
right.
right. They're not as savage as
Exactly,
Space
yes.
Marines.
they got literal bolts put into their fucking body.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I'll tell you what, those other chicks, the original armies, are sexy.
Sure, yeah. But
Right. Hey, if that's what you want to go into battle wearing, if that's what you feel empowered wearing, fucking do it. But I will say, I think these sculpts are more clearly. They had a person that was like, "Hey, can we change this, please? Because
yeah.
this is not realistic as well as not cool."
Yeah.
It is
And just-
fantasy for sure.
And just give them shirts. Like if
Yeah,
nothing else,
yeah.
just give them some
Just
clothing for
just
God's
give me
sake.
some clothing.
For Emperor's sakes, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that they added to these models is they have weird. You'll notice like some of them have the hoods, some of them have like piercings into their like body or something, and that is actually to show what happened to them, like what made them a Repentia. So I presume the hoods are probably like a psyker got to their, like, took over their heads. But then there's some other ones too that I'm like, what happened? Like, this chick doesn't have a leg.
Yeah, there's
she has,
some
like, a metal
cybernetics
leg.
you can see in these.
One of them has like these like fleur-de-lis like hooks in her thigh. But
Yeah, and that's cool too because it gives it a story. It gives a narrative aspect to even just the models.
And I will say too, like the Repentia are still considered sisters of battle. They're still considered part of the Adepta Sororitas. They're not now they're outcasts and will never become sisters again. They can become a sister again. It's
yeah.
It's like kind of okay, but yeah.
But then there are the penitent engines.
Yes.
Whoa.
So again, these
which
are
they
the
changed. They
which they have changed. So these are the modern ones. The old ones looked similar to this, but there was just a naked lady inside.
It was a naked lady. Yeah,
I don't have no problems with that.
It was a.
Okay, so here's the deal with these. So if somebody who has done something really seriously wrong, a criminal in the Imperium of Man, nothing goes to waste in the Imperium of Man.
Yes.
Even horrible criminals. So typically they are either turned into a servitor or something like this, where in a servitor, essentially you lobotomize a person, you cut off his arms and legs and reattach other parts and make him into like a service robot or a sentry robot or something. But it still has a human brain in it that's powering it because the Imperium says you can't build AI, essentially. They ripped it off of Dune.
It still has to be a man, right? It still has to be a human.
Yeah, again, and that's one of the many things that 40K ripped off from Dune. But this is another way you can deal with criminals. You can pop them in a engine that gives them constant pain and suffering in their brains, unless they are fighting and killing things for the Emperor. Now, in the modern lore, it's men and women in these things, but they gotta add this special thing. There's a version of this, actually I don't have a picture, but there's a version of this where instead of a person in the middle, it's like a sarcophagus. And those are the ultimate version. They came up with a new name for them, mortifactors or something, but it's reserved for Sisters of Battle who really screwed up. They're in the worst pain, they have the worst suffering, they get the worst job. And people have written a lot about how, like, it's clearly, it's that trope of, like, hey, it's, it's the kink of, like, look at how horrible these women are suffering, but they're still, like, doing things for men. And it's like, nah. I mean, they're not naked anymore because that one's in a sarcophagus, but it's problematic.
I'm hoping they haven't written any new books yet, and I'm hoping that with new books that come out, they'll kind of retcon it, or at least change it to be like, hey, that was old science, and we moved on and grown, and we are a better civilization now. That's what I hope. I know they do have some books in the works, so we shall see.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
Yeah, it's still
problematic. Is I think the word we'll go with.
Still an issue.
Oh, and then we talked about Celestine. So there these saints. She's in the back. Then she's got her two little helpers who die for her in battle.
Yeah.
But also, I really like how they make the flying work, like logistically.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and these models are great, and people have done amazing paint jobs on these things, painting the wings to look like starscapes.
Yeah.
Painting the wings rainbows. I've seen some really, really beautiful work on these models.
One of my favorite scenes in, it's not in the Faith and Fire book. I think it's actually in the radio drama that they did with Celestine, where they're in the warp. They're like traveling through the warp, and they can't stop, right, because the warp is like dangerous. And this like monster is following them, and they can't fire, they can't do anything, they can't shake it. And Saint Celestine goes, "I got this." she just gets off the ship and like destroys this thing. But the description is so beautiful because it's from the point of view of like one of just like the basic Astra Militarum guys, and he says like it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was like looking at the stained glass in the basilica, whatever their version of it is in the thing. It's very good. It's like,
that's cool.
It's like she's just like, everyone just goes, "Oh, where'd Saint Celestine go?" And then the guy just like talks about how it's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. But yeah.
Nice.
To that too, kind of back to like the weird, like fucked up what the fuck thing. So Saint Celestine's a saint, right? She's a saint, but in the book she still isn't in charge. Like the I think it's like there's like a Primaris guy there or whatever, and he's the one in charge, and he's the one who's like telling Celestine like, you can't do that, like you can't do that. But then she has the scene where she's like, "Fuck you, I got this," and then she like leaves the ship.
Good for her.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
That book's pretty fun too because it's in the point of view of another female. It's the Inquisitor Grey Wolf, and she's trying to find the problems in the ecclesiarchy, and she's investigating. She's actually investigating Saint Celestine at one point. It's pretty. Grey Fox, yes, thank you. It's pretty good. I recommend that radio drama. It's very well done.
Cool. And then, just to be a little bit even more over the top, sisters have some things that look like this. So on the left,
I love this model. I got that model.
So on the left is the procession of Saint Catherine, and it's a giant display piece of. There's a body in the middle. And then there are a whole bunch of characters on there. The one on the far left, she's holding a tray of roses, rose petals. It's amazing.
Each one is for the different orders of the sisters. So the rose petals, I think, is the sacred rose. The chick in the front, the badass chick in the front with the sword and the shield, is martyred lady. Ebon Chalice, she has like the big, fire goblet thing. It's fucking rad. It's so weird.
Yeah, this model has been a lot of the recent painting competitions. Like the people who've painted this model win because there's just so much you can do with it and so many details.
A couple versions of this, or at least version.
Yeah, it was one of the models of the year. That we looked at a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And then the one on the right, it's I always forget her name. Junith. Junith something, but she's riding a flying box with a bunch of flame cannons on the bottom, and
her lore is that like she was on a church. It's like the the thing that you talk at the church, and like they were in war or something and like were attacked, and she like kept the speech going or something as well while she was like flaming all these things. So she was like, "Fuck it, I want this thing," and then they turned the pulpit, that's what it is, thank you. She turned the pulpit into a fucking flying weapon. It's so ridiculous.
Just fly your church right into battle.
Yeah.
And you will notice that the eagle on the front, it does have two heads. That's the symbol of the empire.
Aquila,
yeah, is the two-headed eagle, which is a little weird, but oh, I don't know what that is. Okay. So yeah, so that's pretty much what the sisters are all about. So Fob, how did you get into Warhammer?
Okay, this is interesting. I was dating a guy. That's really
Like you do.
like you do. I was
Like
dating
you
a
do.
guy, and he was really into Warhammer. He worked at a game store. I went and hung out with him and his buddies. One of his buddies, him and his dad are crazy, like Warhammer people. They have every model, every terrain. Like they have a big ass room in their house dedicated to Warhammer, and we would just go and play. And that's how I got into Warhammer.
Well, that's
I
cool.
didn't have an army. He had all the armies, so I pretty much got to. I started off with bugs, and then I did eventually get my own bug army. And then I actually only played Sisters a few times, but that was the army that I really he had, because it was really fucking hard to get, and he had it.
Yes.
And I really wanted it.
Yeah, these old models were not.
They were
they
really
were
hard
not
to get.
cheap, and yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And they're not easy to build.
Yeah.
Either.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my story. Not
Okay.
anything fancy or special. I just
Hey,
I dated a guy. I'm still really good friends with him. He's just started DMing on our channel. We're still like really good friends. So
cool.
that's nothing bad about it.
Sure.
So
you said you've played Tyranids, you've played Sisters a couple times. You've had a chance to play Astra Militarum and some Space Marines on Grimdark Dawn. What's been your? Obviously, you want to go and play Sisters, right? That's your.
I want to play Sisters more for sure, because
Okay.
I think the models are really fucking cool. I love that goth metal like style that the Sisters are. But there are a lot of other armies that I want to try. I actually do want to try Drakari, because I also think they are really cool looking, and I think they're just fun concepts. I'm definitely the rule of cool person. Like I don't give a shit about mechanics so much. I'll figure that out later. Like if they're cool looking, then I wanna play. So
How much time, like percentage-wise, a week do you give Warhammer? Like 0 or like 10 or 25 or?
I think when I was playing it when I was younger, it was definitely like maybe 10 hours a week. I was in high school, so
That's a lot of time, though.
It's a lot of time for a high schooler, for sure. And then I stopped playing for a really, really long time, and it wasn't until Grimdark Dawn that I picked it up again.
Oh.
So now I would say still not a whole lot. I want to say like 5 to 10 hours now, for sure.
But that's still a lot of time. Yeah, I didn't mean that to be like, are you a real gamer? No. It's a challenge that Scott has. It's a challenge I have. We have our hands in so many pots.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
You either ascribe time to something, or it's just that hobby you get around to when you're like, oh yeah, I had to build that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely not as much time as I would like.
Right.
But it's also kind of intimidating. Like I have all those boxes of Sisters, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta build them. Shit, you know.
That's fair. Yes, build them, paint them, all of that kind of stuff. Dreadlord Herc. I skipped over the Arco-Flagellants, but yes, that's another problematic. And those are dudes mostly.
There are females in the.
Yeah, but it's both. Yeah.
Too.
But
they're the Psychers, I believe, that they've manipulated and ripped apart to be fighting machines, I believe. They're new. They're brand new to the new release. But they're fun. A lot of them will have like this face covering, like this head wrap covering thing, and it has a number attached to it, and that's their like prison number, essentially, from the Black Ship.
Yeah, they're another like, hey,
I didn't know that.
Let's talk about how we can have people be super suffering.
Yeah. It's very like Nox when he first saw them. He's like, "These aren't Drakari pieces," and I'm like, "No, no, they
do
aren't."
they do look like that.
They especially with the one with like the tentacle whip. I was like, that looks like the piece that Nox uses as his Grimdark Dawn general.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks just like it. It's so weird. Yeah, these guys.
Yeah, so they're yeah, and they have these gauntlets implanted, and they're in constant pain and suffering, and yeah, they look cool. It's just it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
So if you
yeah, and they're all
go ahead.
psychers, I believe. They all used to be psychers because they all have the same helmet.
Yeah, they've got that thing on their
Yeah.
heads. And
I
stuff
really
pumped into their
love
backs.
the like muted tones on this one too. I know that that's just like how they've decided to demonstrate them. What's your interest level in painting, Fab?
I love painting.
Yeah.
I love painting. Yeah, I love it. I wish I did it more. But I think it was probably the thing that got me the most interested in Warhammer. Like the most into it is like having your own army, building your own pieces, and customizing your own pieces. Yeah, that was the first. Yeah, for sure. My my first Tyrannid army I painted to look like xenomorphs from Aliens. Because I wanted them to be aliens. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were awesome. They're really cool.
Cool. There was a question from someone in chat going back to Grimdark Dawn. How much strategizing did you and Matt do before your games?
No, we did. So we did strategize. We would message each other and be like, "Hey, what's the plan? Hey, I think we're going up against the Death Guard, so we really need to make sure we get them before they get as close to us as possible." So, and then with the help of Scott too, would be like, "Hey, we should probably make sure we have things that have can shoot more, like have better shooting, because we don't want them to get close to us." And then Scott would help us be like, "Oh, this Rhino is probably your best bet. It has these stats." Da 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 da. So we did strategize, but with the chaos of like chat throwing stuff in, a lot of that strategy went out the window as soon as we got to the table. It would be like, well, fuck, now we gotta go hide. Like,
yeah,
like,
and just the weird missions, and you never knew what was gonna happen with the battlefield, and
yeah. So yeah, I mean, we did do some. It just went out the door as soon as we sat down. So.
Which happens even in real games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like non show versions of games. And I will say too that for some of the armies that we used, we didn't have an entire range worth of models and units to choose from. So there was some of the ones, especially that you were playing, we only had like, well, these are what we have to use, so we're going to be using them every time.
Yeah, for sure. Which was it helped me because it helped me like learn the specific model stats and stuff better than like constantly like shuffling through different pieces and stuff. But there was a point where I was like, this would be cool, because I'm looking through the book and we're like, nah, we don't have that piece. It's like, fuck, okay, well.
Yeah.
All right. So
you've talked about a few different characters from the lore and from the novels. Who is your favorite character in all of Warhammer? Or do you have one?
I don't
Top
have as
three.
much experience with like the lore. Like most of the books that I've read are like the Sisters of Battle books. So that's where I have most of my knowledge. I think Galatea was a really cool character in the books. She's the canoness of the Martyred Lady, and she's very much like the strict the strict boss that like is by the book and like always does things by the book. Yeah, I'd say like she's probably the one that sticks out to me the most in that series. I haven't read how she dies, so I need to like probably get to that book eventually, because she does die. I know she dies, but I just don't know how or why.
I'm sure it's very heroic and very
Yeah.
noble.
Oh, I'm sure.
Self-sacrificing.
I'm sure it's fucking rad. But yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. Are there any of the armies that you wish you could get into, but either for time or
Death Guard.
Death Guard. Yeah.
gross?
Tau.
I
Now you're just trolling.
Yeah. I mean, I do think Tower fun. I don't know if I'd get. I don't know if I'd buy them though. I think definitely. The Slanesh stuff has been really cool recently that they've come out with. Like there's the Demon of Gluttony that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it would probably be Slanesh if I was to do it.
Okay.
Because I think their models are really cool. The fucking Goat Prince, man. He's a very good model. So.
Do you play Age of Sigmar at all?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
I play Sylvaneth.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
I did know that.
I do. I have a Sylvaneth army that I have built, but I have not painted yet.
Hey.
We've been talking about like color schemes and like what, because they're trees. The Sylvaneth are like, they're actually really cool. They're the old wood elves that have died and their souls have taken over the trees. So they're like these. Some of them are these like half ghost, half tree creatures.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And again, the fantasy has done like gender representation just fucking better in general. So like most of them are female or like androgynous. One of the main like generals, the Arch Revenant, is like an androgynous spirit. They have like moth wings. They're really fucking cool. Yeah, so that's what I play. But we've been talking about color schemes and like fun themes for them because they're trees. And I was thinking about doing Wizard of Oz and making them the apple trees, because one of the guys has like these skulls hanging off of him, and I was just like, it would be fun if they were apples. Like that would be fun. But then when we were talking about it in one of our painting streams, chat suggested rose bushes, like Alice in Wonderland. And that they're painting the roses red with your blood. And I was like, oh fuck, that's really good too. So, I don't know. It's up in the air. I'm still trying to figure out a theme for them.
That's really tight though. There's so much to be done with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people do seasons with them. So they'll do like a fall season with like some of them, and then like a winter season with other ones. I've seen some amazing like cherry blossom ones where it's like these pink like blooms all over them. So they're pretty cool, very diverse army.
What was I saw somebody who, I'm trying to think of exactly what it was. I think what he did, he had some really weird concept for it, but that they were sort of, he incorporated lightning, like that the trees were animated by lightning. So every one he had, and like he did a whole bunch of customization on them, but there was like a lightning strike, and then he would make them half burnt, but then also with like lightning effects inside. It was crazy.
That's cool, because again, their concept is that the elves have died and the souls have inhabited these old trees, and I think that would be cool to mix the lightning with like the soul part.
Yeah, it was something like that.
That's awesome.
Crazy.
I'm gonna look that up.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, hopefully you can find it.
Fucking rad. I like it.
Well, I hope that one day we get to go back to Grimdark Dawn, and we can start that up again. Have a season 3. We'll see.
Yeah,
you never know.
Soon.
We were talking to Naeem last week, and he's because he's in charge now. I don't know if you heard of all Warhammer at over there. So yeah, hopefully one day. So I have a link in that Nightbot has been spitting out for your Twitter account, but where else can people find you and the cool stuff that you are doing these days?
So I produce content for the Scabby Rooster LARP Tavern. You can find it here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Scabby Rooster. As well as we also have a Facebook and a YouTube. That's what it is.
YouTube, yeah.
And we do mostly tabletop RPG content currently, but we also make some LARP content as well, as we have some Warhammer content we are in the works on.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
watched
neat.
your what was it, the Thanksgiving cooking stream?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
my
I was like,
gosh.
wait, how long is this? And it was like 6 hours, and
It
I was
was
scrubbing
all
through, and
day.
it was just you just cooking for an entire day.
Cooking for the day.
That was
just hanging
that was
out.
very impressive.
It was fun. People
Yeah, it
seem
was
to
cool.
enjoy it, so that's good. We have talked about doing more cooking streams because
Nice.
You cook.
I cook. I'm not good at it. Like I'm not, which also is probably entertaining to watch me fail. But that's it's okay.
It's the challenge.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was super fun. Let me see if I can find somebody to raid real quick.
Raid.
Who is on? Oh, we could raid our friend Jenny Joy O.
Oh yeah, do it.
Hell yeah.
Okay, give me 1
She
second.
paints orcs. Is it orcs?
Yeah, or at least she was that other time. Can I
Yeah.
do it from here? Can I raid from?
Yeah, raid and that name, space and her name, no at or anything. And
I'm also
tune
good
back
at Final
in.
Fantasy. Yeah.
No, please.
No. Someone said that I play Final Fantasy. I do also play Final Fantasy sometimes.
We are going to be back on Scott's channel tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific time doing Oedipus Rex.
Yes.
Ooh.
And I hope I'm Oedipus. We'll see what happens. Probably not.
Are you? I don't know. I check your messages. You'll find out who you are.
I'll find out. Yeah.
Although I will say several people are Oedipus tonight. Not everybody, but several people are.
Oh.
The line division for this one was not nearly as easy as the other plays we've done.
Got it.
So
Got it.
I had to divide, spread the wealth a little bit when it came
Got
to
it.
Oedipus lines. But yes, as Jessica said, come back and follow. Make sure to follow everybody. Be on the Discords, and everybody has a Discord these days.
Everyone
Do it
has
all.
Discord.
And we're gonna go say hi to Jenny Joy and see what she's doing.
Drop your
Drop those emotes.
Slanesh. Yep.
Woohoo.
Drop your
All
Slanesh
right.
parts.
Thanks everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Okay, press the raid, pressing end broadcast.